Hi and welcome back to the Classic MGB channel. Now today we're somewhere special. We're at the headquarters of the MG Owners Club. Now for those of you that don't know, the MG Owners Club is pretty unique in that it offers spares, it offers a regalia, it offers a club with local centres, and it also offers a workshop to get your car done. Let's see what it's all about. The first thing that strikes you about the MG Owners Club headquarters is just how big it is. The building goes on forever. However, 50 years ago when the club was formed, things were a little different. I caught up with founder and current club secretary Roche Bentley to tell me more.
The MG Owners Club was formed in 1973. I was a young guy then, 23 years old, and I needed to get parts for my MGB, and my brother needed to get parts for his. And we found it was very difficult indeed, and local Leyland dealers didn't stock the parts we wanted. They couldn't order them from us, and they didn't even know how much they cost. So I said to my brother Martin, we should start a club for MGBs and other MGs. And he says, you come up with these ideas. He said, but try to do something about it. So I did. I put an advert exchange in March in October. And when I came back from honeymoon, because I got married on the same day as the MG Owners Club was formed, when I got back from honeymoon, there was more posts than we could shift. We had to open the door, a small crack, put a hand around the door and pull the mail out. And there was a lot of people wanted to know more about the MG Owners Club. And that was 50 years ago. The MG Owners Club grew well initially from 1973 onwards, but in 1979, British Leyland announced they were going to close down the MG factory and MG would be discontinued. So we organised marches in London, we had a procession, and we wanted people to realise that MG was owned by British Leyland, which is a public-owned company, so we own it, the public, and they were going to close it down. It was ridiculous.
The club is reportedly the largest single marque owners club in the world and currently has around 20,000 members. According to club records, around 60% of the members are MGB owners. That's about 12,000 MGBs. So why is the MGB so popular?
The MGB is popular because it's easy to look after, it's easy to get spares and they're not expensive. You try buying an Aston Martin and get some parts for that, you'll know what I mean. For me, I just loved the MGB's personality and the notes, the exhaust notes. There's not a few things that sound better with an MGB racing up the road, changing into gear, and you think, wow, that is good. That's where I want to be.
MGBs, I remember taking an engine out of one when I think I was about 6 years old with my brother, and it's continued from there. I sort of love them. I've always had one. There's always been one in the garage, sometimes more than one. Raced one for 17 years. Thoroughly enjoy the car. Current MGB is a GT, as one my dad rebuilt. I helped him. You can tell which side I helped him on and the side he did. Not used as much as it should do. My son is desperate to get his hands on it, but my daughter won't let him. So I've got to be careful between the two of them.
One of the things that the club is best known for is spares and accessories, and this has grown significantly since the club was formed. I caught up with Chris Bentley, the Sales and Marketing Director for MGOC Spares, to tell me more.
MGOC Spares was started in 1979. Initially it offered aftermarket accessories such as exhausts and batteries. Very quickly expanded the range. The accessories range that we have comprises something like 5,000 parts now. And covers from performance tuning items to comfort, interior modifications and everything in between. So the accessories side of things is the aftermarket and performance improvements. Spares part is more about keeping the cars on the road. So introducing items that have gone unavailable, recommissioning, tooling and so on, making the parts affordable and keeping them in plentiful supply. So spares and accessories, combining that range, there's something like 27,000 parts across the range. Now that's not just limited to MGB, for which you're interested in, but also expands to include midget, MGA, MGC, MGT type, MGF and TF spare parts as well. We cater for all MG owners from about 1950 through to the end of MG Rover production, but even those were starting to introduce some of the SAIC type parts for the MG ZS, like brake discs and so on for those cars, just making sure that people have got a ready source of available and affordable spare parts for those models too.
You can see by walking through the parts warehouse just where those 27,000 stock lines are kept. In total, there are over 1 million parts here. And speaking from personal experience, every part I've ever ordered has been in stock. The club's recently revamped spares website now shows current stock levels. Clearly for a car that went out of production over 40 years ago though, some parts must be more difficult to source.
For us, what's key is to make sure that we have a quality offer. So we're working hard to make sure that we can make those parts available and affordable. Those two things are absolutely key. On the MGB-GT, more recently we've introduced things like the gutter mouldings for those cars. So now you can buy a complete gutter moulding set for those, comprising the 4 pieces. Again, things like the 6-volt batteries for the MGB, something as common and garden as a 6-volt battery, you think you'd be able to source it. Actually, it's really difficult to get one for an MGB. Most modern manufacturers use a 12-volt. So we're pleased to be able to offer MG owners a 6-volt battery for delivery on a next working day basis, filled with acid, ready to go. I think we're one of the only suppliers that can actually do that. A fairly recent example was the centre horn assembly on the really early MGBs. So the 3 synchromesh MGBs had on the non-collapsible column, they had like a little brass crown, and then they had a plunger with a spring, and that was no longer available. Well, on a chance meeting with someone in the industry, but not in the same marque industry, they had parts of a kit which I thought might work, and I got chatting with them and they told me who was manufacturing them, and I met this gentleman that was retired but has a lathe, and he spun up a load of exactly what was needed of these midget and MGB centre horn push assemblies. I think the number is something like BHA 4443. They're about £100, you know, it's not to be scoffed at. They come at a premium, but then there's a lot of engineering that goes into that with the slip ring in the rotor. We all have various responsibilities, but at the heart of it, we're enthusiasts, and that's key. One of the things that I do on a monthly basis is develop our hotlines offer, and it always gives me great pleasure to reintroduce products which haven't been available for a long time, because I know that people are going, yes, it's finally someone out there has, you know, woken up to the fact that you cannot get a thermostat housing for a midget 1098, and we've gone ahead and we've done it. So those are the parts that we delight to recommission and reintroduce. It gives us no greater pleasure than to re-offer parts which haven't been available for a very long time, because we know there's a receptive market for that. And also it sets our stall out. It demonstrates to the owner that we're not just box shifters. You know, we're an organisation that's truly passionate about the marque. And because of that, because we drive the car, and because we have that wealth and expertise, we are investing in the parts manufacturer, and we'll continue to do so for a very long time to come.
This passion is evident in all the people I spoke to, and something that really appeals to me. These guys are genuine MG enthusiasts and live and breathe the marque.
Roger and I on technical are faced with some interesting inquiries. There's a lot of very similar inquiries, but if we don't know it, we'll go and find out the answer, and we're forever learning. Interesting inquiries. I've had someone before the days of handheld laws, someone ring up going down the M4 saying, what do you think is wrong with my car? Because it sounded like the rear axle was falling out. And I was able to guide him off the M4 to a garage that I happen to know, which sorted the problem out. So the service can sometimes get that personal that we can direct you from where you actually are to a garage in real time.
Now, one of the really important things I found with MGB ownership is agreed value insurance. In other words, a fixed value that's agreed with the insurance company and is reflected in the premium charged. Clearly, with a car that's at least 40 years old, value is very much down to condition. So I wondered how the club values MGBs.
The valuation process is sometimes very difficult, sometimes not. When you've got, say, an MGB, they do fit into quite separate categories of modified or very original, number of owners, the amount of work and the overall condition. So you've got to look at each individual car and you kind of put it into a bracket. Sometimes you have owners that feel their car is worth more than it actually is and as the market would say, and other times they're pleasantly surprised when they get an increase in their value.
Another thing worth mentioning about the club is the range of information available. The website is a key resource for both members and non-members. The members area includes links to local clubs, a comprehensive technical archive, as well as a members forum with areas dedicated to each model. There's also a calendar of upcoming events, access to a range of member discounts, and of course, electronic versions of the club's flagship monthly magazine, Enjoying MG. Another facet of the club is the workshop, where you can get a range of work carried out on your car, and even get pre-purchase advice. I spoke to Ian Woolman to find out a bit more and wondered what advice he would give to someone thinking of buying an MGB.
The MGB is a really good starting point. As far as classic cars are concerned, it's one of the most easy to get into, easy to maintain vehicles. The best bit of advice I usually give them is buy the most expensive car that you can afford. The most expensive car is the cheapest car. If you buy a car that's done, you're just going to drive it and enjoy it, and when you're done with it, you'll sell it for the same money. If you buy a cheap one, that's fine if you can fix it. But if you're paying the likes of us to do it, it would have been cheaper to buy the more expensive one in the first place. So my best advice usually to them is buy the better car. But if you've got the car and this is your car and you want to have it done, you bring it to us and we can sort it out for you. The most common work that we do on MGB would be restoration, suspension. You know, these are 50-year-old motor cars. Depending on how they're used, if they've had a full-on restoration 10 or 15 years ago, then it's just maintenance. If it's a car that needs a little bit more, then it needs a little bit more. This vehicle here had been off the road for 23 years. So we've gone from the back to the front, doing all the mechanical stuff. The bodywork was fine. The customer was quite happy with that, but anything rubber needed to be changed. The brakes were completely overhauled, going right the way through to the drivetrain. Change the fuel tank, change the fuel pump, and then work our way forwards to the front. So there's no common stuff. Suspension is a with today's roads with potholes, I don't need to tell people about that. It takes its toll. And if an MGB is set up right and the suspension is working right, you don't need necessarily to upgrade and change things. It just all needs to be good, in good condition and working well. Sometimes we have to take the jobs on where people, like I say, they've just run out of time or they can't quite manage it, or they haven't got the equipment. We're very lucky. We can work in here on a ramp. It can be throwing it down with rain outside. It can be freezing cold. Our situation is the same. So we can be on it 7 hours a day until the job is done. With home life, kids, things that you've got going on, that's not always possible if you're doing it DIY. And sometimes you just think, I'm going to pay the money and get it done.
Now, I needed a clutch pedal return spring for my car, and this was duly purchased. But with all this lovely MG stuff around, I also bought a new polo shirt, a notebook, and some new centre caps for my wheels. For the record, I paid full price, and I've received nothing for producing this video, but without wanting to turn it into a corporate promo film for the club, they already have one of those and the link is in the description. I asked our contributors to sum up the MG Owners Club and what the future holds.
Sum up the MG Owners Club in 4 words: we can help you.
MG-OT Spares is quality, service and value.
The Owner Club's very special, but I would say that because I work here. I've worked here for 25 years plus, and not one day has gone past where I've not wanted to come to work. And I think that's pretty special.
The future of the MG Owners Club is to carry on doing what it does, which is namely helping people who love MGs maintain their cars in good condition and at reasonable cost. That was our motto back in 1973, is our motto now, and it will be in another 50 years.
So there you go, a whistle-stop tour of the MG Owners Club. Great service to MGB owners, in fact all MGs. Now, in case you're wondering, I'm sitting in another half car. This one built by Maidstone Sports Cars, and it actually drives. If you've subscribed, many thanks. If you haven't, it'd be great if you could, and also click the bell for notifications so you'll know when we upload new content. As always, thanks for watching. Take care.